Good evening, you're watching Estuary TV News. Coming up, we take a look at the renovation of Cleethorpes Pier and its big questions to little kids.
We are from St. Peter's Primary School.
And joining me in the studio is Tim Mickleborough to talk about piers. Welcome to Estuary TV News. I'm Hugh Riches. First of all, it's over to James Dunn for the news.
Hello, in today's bulletin, firemen walk out on strike, and to turn a prize-winning art installation could bring international attention to Scunthorpe. But first, a 68-year-old man in Grimsby is in hospital after suffering serious injuries when hit by a car in Grimsby. The pedestrian was walking across the road at the junction of Burwell Drive and Sutcliffe Avenue just before 9 p.m. last night when it happened. He suffered serious injuries to the head, face and leg and is in a serious condition. The driver, a 51-year-old man from Grimsby, suffered from shock and police are appealing for witnesses. Humberside Fire and Rescue officers walked out on strike this morning. Residents are being asked only to call in an emergency, but the force says it could have the capacity to handle the situation. The strike lasts until 9 a.m. tomorrow. East Riding Council has issued a stark warning to dog walkers after a 17-year-old was fined nearly £200 for dog fouling. The teenager was given a fixed penalty notice in May but failed to pay and was taken to Beverley Youth Court in order to pay the fine, costs and a victim surcharge. The council issued 16 penalty notices last financial year but say they're now taking a zero-tolerance stance on irresponsible dog owners. Crime Stoppers want people to anonymously report drink drivers to make the roads safer over the Christmas period. Nearly 100 people made reports in the Humberside region between March 2013 and April this year. You can make a report totally anonymously by calling 0800 555 111, but should call 999 if you see someone clearly drunk about to get into a car. Finally, an internationally renowned artist is to exhibit a Turner Prize-winning piece in Scunthorpe. Anthony Gormley's 40,000 terracotta figures won the prize in 1994, and he's most well known for creating the Angel of the North in 2015. His terracotta army will go on display in the 2021 Visual Arts Centre, and the council is looking for volunteers to help set up the installation.
I joined the organisation just under 10 years ago, and the first thing I thought when I walked into the space was that Gormley piece looked absolutely beautiful in there. It fills the entire space. It's a beautiful space to begin with. I used to work for Sheffield Galleries when we showed it there, and I still have great memories of seeing the piece. It was kind of stayed with me, and the reaction of the visitors. The visitors they absolutely love that piece. They really identify with it.
More on that later. Bye for me.
Thank you, James. Piers are at the heart of many seaside towns throughout Britain, and they're often at the centre of the tourism trade in those towns. However, in recent years, some of the piers have either fallen into disrepair or been damaged, like the fire at Eastbourne Pier. Now Cleethorpes Pier is getting a new lease of life. Dave Nunn went down to the seaside.
It's one of Cleethorpes' most iconic landmarks, having stood in the town since 1873 after being built for £8,000. Now the pier is undergoing another change in its long life.
Well, what we are doing is we're stripping the interior and the exterior back to as far as can to the original state, and re-implementing the fascias for the frontage, and the interior is going to be refitted, so we'll have a conference and events facility serviced with food and drink facilities for everyone to enjoy.
This conference and events facility will spell the end of the pier's tenure as a nightclub venue, something which brings the pier's future into a more positive light.
The nightclub industry is dead. It's better to use it for a lot more people, families, etc., than it is just for a limited few people on, 2 or 3 nights a week maximum.
In recent years, Britain has seen some of its most beloved piers disappear, whether it's due to lack of funds or fire, such as the one on Eastbourne Pier. It seems in Cleethorpes there is an appetite for a pier.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, the pier is located at the central promenade, so it's the first thing you see as you come into the town itself. So we had a great summer, especially with the air show. That indicated a lot of people do enjoy having these sort of facilities available to come and enjoy. With
the costs of maintenance of historic piers often outstripping the revenue they bring in, people are asking whether the pier in Cleethorpes can be maintained.
Well, we're looking to do that. We want to preserve it so it can be here for another 150 years if we can. That's what we're aiming for.
You're watching Estuary TV News. Coming up, the pupils of Barton Church of England Primary School star in Big Questions to Little Kids, and we join Dan Kemp.
St. Peter's Primary
And we join Dan Kemp for a roundup of the sport. Earlier we saw the work going on at Cleethorpes Pier as it's been brought back to its glory days. With me in the studio is Tim Mickleborough, who not only is a ward councillor for North East Lincolnshire, but is also the honorary vice president of the National Pier Society. Tim, welcome. Thank you for coming on.
Good evening.
How do you respond to that story about the pier in Cleethorpes? Is that good news?
Oh yes, because I mean I went to the auction over a year ago when at first Cleethorpes Pier didn't manage to find a buyer, and then eventually these people came along with new ideas for the pier. Now it's very, very easy often to have new ideas and then nothing comes to fruition. It's good they're actually putting things into practice that will make Cleethorpes Pier a vibrant success we hope for the future.
And do you think that this new use for it is in the tradition, is in the right sort of setting that in the use of piers? Oh
yes, because I mean, piers have always moved with the times to some degree, but at the same time they're part of that traditional English seaside, and there's more of a recurrence of interest in the traditional seaside. I mean, years ago people talked about seaside resorts decaying. Well, Cleethorpes has come along a lot in recent years with the different attractions, with the cinema, the expansion of the light railway, and now is it a Holiday Inn or whatever being built at the seafront. A rejuvenated pier will fit in with that market.
Just give me a little bit of the history of Cleethorpes Pier. It is not as long as it used to be.
Well, the pier was originally built in 1873 and extended out 1,200 feet to sea. The current pavilion dates from 1905, so it is the same pavilion extensively altered inside, but during the Second World War there was this idea that in the event of enemy invasion they would want to land on the end of the pier. We always thought a ridiculous idea because of course Cleethorpes Pier is right at the seafront, right at the very height of where everybody can see people coming in and landing. If you're going to get enemy attack, they'd surely go to some secluded cove, but no, this edict went out on high and piers were sectioned. That is, a small section of decking was removed from them. And then after the war, you've still got photographs seeing the extended pier, but of course they decided the money that were going to be offered in compensation wasn't enough. And so although the extended pier survived the war, it was pulled down in 1949, leaving the shortened pier we have today.
Would you like to see one day Cleethorpes Pier? I said it was being brought back to its glory days, but its glory days were 1,200 feet out to sea. No chance of rebuilding it back to that length again?
Not really, because it was just for entertainment purposes. I mean, when it went that length at the start, the first pavilion was right out to sea. When they rebuilt it, the pavilion was at the shore level. So it would be a case of having to have attractions on at the end, because of course you've still got at Cleethorpes, unlike other piers, the tide going out a long way. So it's not as even you could get like the PS Waverley to land there. So I think that is just a pipe dream.
But the piers were real money spinners in their heyday in the late 19th, early 20th centuries. They were the Disneyland or the theme parks of their time. Can the pier be that successful again?
Well, very successful piers continue to be very, very profitable. I mean, we're fortunate in Cleethorpes in that the pier is right at the heart of a resort. So people come on the trains still, come on the buses, they're there and they're seeing the pier. And it's interesting that Cleethorpes Pier was actually bought at one stage by the council because they felt the railway company weren't making enough of the pier. They wanted to have the pier under their own auspices to make more money from it. And I think the fact that you've got a private investor, even during the time of economic recession, has been prepared to put their own money into the pier shows it can be done.
Piers around the country have had a rough time in recent years. There was a dreadful fire at Hastings Pier a few years ago. One of the Blackpool piers was damaged a few years before that. Southend Pier, we've heard just in the last week or so, which is the longest pier in the world, I think, that's got maintenance issues that need to be repaired. Piers are vulnerable, aren't they?
They're very vulnerable because of their position, but also adds to its very uniqueness in the fact that people like the idea, and have always have done, of going out to sea while remaining on dry land. That is one of the attractions of piers. And it's interesting, yes, there have been the very big fires, for example, like at Weston-super-Mare, not so long back, but at the same time, once there was, if you like, pause for thought and decided what to be done, they decided to build a great big new pavilion, and it was all done for private money, not public money. And obviously private investors wouldn't put that sort of revenue into piers if they didn't think they were going to be very, very successful and profitable.
So the point is piers are always going to be commercially viable, even nowadays, even in the modern age.
There was a problem back in the 60s when I think a lot of pier owners, like the same a lot of industry, wanted to carry on pretty much as before, realising that they hadn't realised that the leisure market had changed. If pier owners go with the times, go with the development markets, was what is fashionable in today's leisure industry, a pier can very much still thrive and prosper today.
Just to widen the thought about tourism in Cleethorpes itself, there's all sorts of, not opposition, but rivalry to tourism in Cleethorpes. People can fly off to very nice, lovely, beautiful, hot Mediterranean countries for less than the price of a railway ticket to London. You can fly to Spain or to Italy or Greece. And the other attractions rivaling the traditional British seaside resort are very attractive. Can a British seaside town survive against those odds?
About 25 years ago, I would say some wouldn't survive and some perhaps didn't survive. But we're living in different times now. In fact, the people who have got the money can have second or third holidays at home. They have perhaps remained 2 weeks in France or Spain or whatever, but they also stay in this country. And that's shown, I think, in the fact that this new hotel that's coming to Cleethorpes, that will encourage it to cater for tourism parties and the like. And I think we're fortunate as well in Cleethorpes, unlike some resorts. It's part of North East Lincolnshire, it joins on together, it's got the year in, year out attractions that bring people in it. It's not just a tourist season, it's all the year round.
But is that new hotel, is that a sign of a thriving tourist industry in Cleethorpes, or is that a sign of anticipation of renewable energy investment in the town?
I think it's partly both, because, I mean, yes, renewable energy will come to the town and will help, but at the same time there have been all these other attractions that have come to Cleethorpes, for like railway, for example, expansion, the cinema, that are often used by people locally as well. So I think it's both, yes, and it goes together. Cleethorpes can thrive as a seaside resort, it can also thrive as a home to people working in the new industries.
You mentioned the light railway. Part of the infrastructure that Cleethorpes depend on, though, is the heavy railway, is the line in from Doncaster. Is it not going to suffer as a tourist resort by the fact that it's so hard and so slow to get there, because that train travels at such a snail's pace from Doncaster to Cleethorpes?
Well, first of all, it's good this week we've learned that there's going to continue to be direct trains to Manchester. That is very, very good news for the resort. And there is certainly people, MPs, council and the like, fighting for the direct trains to London. I think that is the problem more than the slow speeds of the train, because we had people once who had a National Pier Society annual general meeting locally, and people were happy and they liked Cleethorpes when they saw it. But people from London are used to going direct and not used to changing.
But they're going to go to Brighton or Clacton or Southend anyway, aren't they? We don't want Londoners up here. Our market's Leeds, isn't it, for Cleethorpes? Leeds and Bradford. Those are the traditional...
Traditionally it has been, but then there've always been people coming from the Midlands. I mean, I used to live in the Midlands at one stage, and they remembered coming to Cleethorpes. And one of the good things about coming to Cleethorpes, you're there at the seaside straight away. You go to somewhere like Brighton, you're perhaps 3/4 of a mile from the sea, and you're having to trek, which is a drawback. Here you can advertise, the pier, the seaside is right at the front of the resort. When you get there, you're at the sea, I think is Cleethorpes.
You do get off the train onto the beach, don't you, pretty much literally.
Which you don't in a lot of resorts.
Will you just tell me a little bit more about the work of the National Pier Society? How can people get involved if they want to support the idea of looking after piers? Piers are commercially viable. What do you do? How are you useful?
We are useful in that we bring together people with different areas of expertise, different areas of knowledge. We have people on our committee who are engineers, who perhaps got knowledge in that sphere that can help if people have got problems, because you alluded to earlier about the difficulty with maintenance and the like. We have probably half the piers have enrolled as members themselves. People who actually own the piers, they're members of the society. And so therefore we can often put people in touch with somebody's got a problem, we can perhaps help them.
Tim, thank you very much for coming on and talking about piers. Tim Muckaborough, welcome back.
Thank you very much.
100 years ago, thousands of young men from East Yorkshire and Lincolnshire set off for the front line, and many never returned. One school in Brigg is now trying to bring the memories of these soldiers back to life, merging art with remembrance. Dan Kemp went along to Sir John Nelthorpe College to hear about their special way of paying respect.
Memories of 100 years ago have been brought back to life in new murals at Sir John Nelthorpe School in Brigg. Students were given the opportunity to design artwork to remember those that died in the Great War, including young men that were in the same position as them.
It was a massive honour to be a part of it, because it's a huge part of not only the world's history but the school's history as well. We're honouring the students who died from the school, and it's lovely that we can carry on the tradition from this school, and it's lovely that we can be a part of it.
I think these young people have been absolutely fantastic, and the work they have done is remarkable. I've seen all the work that they've done. I came to the unveiling of this wonderful memorial in July, and the work they have done is unbelievable, all led by Mr. Waite of the History Department.
Right, the project itself's been running for over a year now, so there's a lot of time and effort went into researching and finding out, getting the pictures of the people, and getting in touch with some of the families that we could, find out the history of the men. And then the art department took over, and they've done an absolutely fantastic job using the information but putting it together in a really accessible way.
All the students in the school submitted designs, so they were working on collage-based designs, and the one that the governors felt worked best was the one that you see behind you, which was designed by our sixth form mainly, with some help from some year 9 and some year 10 pupils.
We got told that the relatives of the people who we put on there would be coming, so there was a bit of pressure on that as well. We wanted to make sure it was all right for them and we did a good tribute to them.
And having the opportunity to engage and share their experience with ancestors of those that died was an experience not lost on the students.
It's really good because it's kind of helping them remember their relatives.
And yeah, I hope we've done it in a really good way so that they can be remembered from school.
They fought and died in their millions for us to give us our freedom. And although it was supposed to be the Great War and the war to end all wars, unfortunately it wasn't.
And some of the pupils from the school will join me on Friday to talk about the film they're producing about the First World War. Now it's over to big questions to little kids. This week it's the pupils from Barton Church of England Primary School answering the question, what type of person should lead government?
We are from St. Peter's Primary School. What type of person should lead the government?
They should be caring, generous, kind, and they should be able to empathise with people.
I think a government person should be kind, caring, and they have the power to look after look after the world, and they should be able to stand up to people.
Someone with empathy, sympathy, and they have to have confidentiality. They have to consider other people and other people's feelings.
I think the person that should lead the government should stand up for the country and take our opinions into consideration.
Someone who's responsible and has empathy for people.
They need to be caring and they need to be able to understand your problem, and they need to be friendly to others.
And thank you to the pupils of Barton Primary School. Next week it will be it will be Coombriggs Primary School in Immingham doing that feature. Able UK's proposed £450 million marine energy park and the 4,000 jobs that come with it look set to change the fortunes of northern Lincolnshire. Suffering from the decline of the steel industry, Scunthorpe has endured in recent decades, but it's hoped its fortunes are on the up. And now its financial future is secure. Council bosses are looking at a cultural revolution. James Dunn reports.
A lot's changed since this flagship art venue opened in 2001, but one of the most significant changes is the way it's funded.
Back in 2012 there was a shake-up of Arts Council funding to kind of regularly funded venues like us. Some venues did really badly out of that, other venues did really well, and we're one of the venues that did really well, and I think it's part of the recognition of what we're doing here over the last 10 years, but also moving funding away from the big city centres to places like Scunthorpe and places kind of where people who don't normally get to see great art can see great, excellent art exhibitions.
It's allowed them to unveil their most ambitious programme yet, and their flagship exhibition is Anthony Gormley. If you hadn't heard of the 1994 Turner Prize-winning piece going on display, consisting of 40,000 terracotta figures, you will have heard of his most famous work, The Angel of the North.
I think to go and have an internationally renowned artist showing in Scunthorpe, without doubt it's going to attract people into the town, into Church Square. We're going to look and see what's happening in Church Square and trying to reinvigorate the town. The town's gone through some fairly rough times recently. Therefore, anything that we can do to positively promote that, we're delighted to be part of.
It's all too fitting that just next door is the brand new University Training Centre rapidly taking shape. and the council believe it's important that the cultural renaissance keeps up with the economic one.
We've already seen the UTC now above the skyline here, so that's really exciting, but I want it to be part of a student culture, incorporating exhibitions like this, so we can, I think in Scunthorpe, complement our out-of-town stores, but bring people in to see what we have to offer, something different, a really cafe culture as well. So I think this is the start of a, I'm not going to say renaissance because it's never happened before, something new and really exciting, and I think that's what it should be for people of North Lincolnshire.
Right now it's over to Dan Kemp for the sport.
The draw for the FA Cup third round was made in Hull yesterday evening. Hull City were drawn against Arsenal in the draw rehearsal, which would have been a repeat of last year's final. What even stranger was to come as the Tigers drew Arsenal again in the live draw, meaning a trip to the Emirates on the weekend of Saturday, January the 3rd. Scunthorpe United were also drawn out yesterday despite facing another match to make it to the next stage. If they beat Worcester City in a replay next week, they'll host Chesterfield. However, their progress in the tournament is also under threat as they fielded an eligible player in their second round tie. They have until 5 p.m. on Thursday to respond to the FA's charge. And in another piece of fixture news, Grimsby Town's fixture with Dover on January the 4th is set to be rearranged, following Dover's progress in the FA Cup. Dover will host Crystal Palace in the third round instead of facing off with the Mariners. Cleethorpes golfer India Clyburn was this year's England Junior Order of Merit winner. She continues to pick up the accolades after an already impressive 2014. Meanwhile, elder sister Holly finished joint 6th in the Hero Women's Indian Open and picked up a prize of nearly €8,000. Also in the competition, Humberston's Sophie Walker finished in a three-way share for 11th. In Rugby Union, Hull Ionians retained their place at the top of National League 2 North with a resounding 50-13 win over Stourbridge. Eyes opened it with a penalty try and went over 3 more times before half-time. Ali Thompson then powered over the line before Sam Wilson scored the pick of the tries with the league leaders with his perfectly worked set move from the line-out. They're now 3 points clear of Ampthill District in their push to return to National League 1 North at the first time of asking. And that's all for the sport.
That's all from us this evening. Join me tomorrow evening when folk singer Dave Everton will be my guest. Contact us in the usual ways, estuary.tv or through Twitter or Facebook, or pick up the phone and call 01472 315561 or the number on the screen. But for now, good evening.
Hello and welcome to Estuary TV's weather. Wednesday feeling very cold as temperatures struggle to rise in the very windy conditions. Sunshine and showers, some heavy, perhaps thundery, and a maximum temperature of 6 degrees. Thursday will be windy, sunshine and showers, feeling cold. Later heavy rain and gales arrive with a maximum temperature of 6 degrees.